You don't know?
I don't know.
Oh gosh, what's the point of this?
We had some of the more amazing things in San Francisco that I hadn't really connected before. Things like the Jeremiah O'Brien's giant steam engine and the Musée Mécanique and all these things on the pier and the submarine from World War II, the Pampanito. We have this maker culture from the Maker Faire. Makes a lot of sense to show some of the earliest mechanical computing as well as just mechanical amazing things.
The first ever
Mechanicrawl.
I'm Todd Lappin with Boing Boing TV, and we are here at the USS Pampanito, a World War II submarine that's on display here in San Francisco. All right, so we're here with Zach from the USS Pampanito, and this is a World War II submarine. Why don't you tell me a little about this boat and what it used to do and its history?
The SS Pampanito is a Balao-class submarine. It was the first class of fleet ships. She was active in the Pacific Theater, ran 6 war patrols, and has a record of 6 ships sunk and 4 ships damaged. She was a very active part in the Allied effort of sinking Japanese merchant ships to starve the Japanese out of the war. It's a crew of about 80. It's about 10 officers, 70 enlisted.
How long could a ship like this stay underwater?
This ship could probably stay underwater for a maximum of about 24 hours at tops. World War II submarines had very low power batteries, so they couldn't afford to spend all their time down below. Well, the Pampanito carried a load of 24 torpedoes, and she carried either the Mark 14 torpedo or the Mark 18 torpedo. Well, this is the Mark 14 torpedo. Early on in the war, we were using this very kind of sci-fi magnetic field detector. We were trying to pass the torpedo under the ship, and when it detected the ship's magnetic signature, it would blow up, lifting the ship out of the water and then cracking it in half when it landed. Unfortunately, it rarely, if ever, worked. The torpedoes had a tendency to rise up to the surface where the ship's magnetic field was weaker, and a lot of the time they would actually bounce off the Japanese ships. Out of 14,000 Mark 14s fired during the war, only 4,000 ever exploded, which is a pretty poor ratio. Later on we switched to a much more effective pin detonator, which required only 10 pounds of pressure to set it off, and that had about a 95%.
So basically the simple technology worked better than the fancy technology?
Much better.
So where are we now?
We're in one of the ship's engine rooms. These are, on either side we have two of the 4 huge diesel engines that power this ship's generators. This was actually one of the hottest rooms on the sub. Temperatures could probably be around 100 degrees, and people, there's diesel smoke everywhere. People are constantly chain smoking. Not a good place to be on the boat.
Tell me a little about the diesels. I mean, how big were they? What kind of output did they have?
I don't actually know how big they were.
You don't know?
I don't know.
Oh gosh, what's the point of this? This looks like the bunk room.
Yeah, this is the crew's berthing area. There's a total of 36 bunks in here. Now, if you remember, there were about 70 enlisted men, so they had to do what's called hot bunking, which means when you get out of bed, some other sweaty, dirty guy rolls into yours. So the beds are constantly in rotation. There's always someone sleeping in your bunk.
Now the maid service and the room service, that was all available 24 hours?
Oh, 5-star.
5-star.
Okay. Actually, there was this. This was the ship's ice cream machine.
Wow.
Which, submariners actually had the best food in the service. They also had the best pay because it was the most dangerous work. Very rarely would the submarine be on these the white lights. Most of the time it would look like this. Red lights throughout the boat, so that you don't ruin the night vision of people coming in off watch or going up to do night watch.
This is sort of the backstage access part of the tour. We're now in the conning tower, which is normally off limits to the public, but we're not the public. We're Boing Boing TV, so we get to be up here and see the secret part of the submarine. Tell us about this. What's going on in here? What was this used for?
All right. Well, the conning tower is really the brain of the submarine. All the day-to-day operations are run from here. Normally, you'd have about 8 men in here just for general day-to-day operations. When you're in the business of actually trying to actively sink a ship, the number goes up to about 13. So it gets pretty tight quarters in here. Right here is the helm of the ship, the absolute worst job on the submarine. It's given to the youngest and greenest sailor on board. The reason is because for an 8-hour shift, you stand right here looking at these 4 dials. It's also, you get really, really seasick right here. There's stories about one 17-year-old sailor on the Pampanito who used to get so seasick he sewed burlap sacks to his uniform to just, you know, catch all the vomit. Really, really a horrible place to be. Right there you're going to see something that looks a lot like an air conditioner. It's because it is an air conditioner. I know I said the engine rooms were hot, but this was actually the hottest room on the sub. Average temperature was probably about 120 degrees, and they installed the air conditioner because they figured that they had to keep it under 130. This is the TDC, Torpedo Data Computer, and it's basically the best kept secret on the boat, and it's a big part of why we won the war in the Pacific. Launching a torpedo takes about 20 minutes of intense trigonometry and geometry. You have to figure out angles because you're not firing at the ship, you're firing at where the ship is going to be in 12 minutes. So there's a lot of angles and calculations involved. What the TDC does is it's basically an analog calculator, a mechanical calculator that does all the calculations automatically. From the ship's gyro, it could tell automatically the ship's heading, the ship's speed, what the ship was doing, whether it was rocking, whether it was in still water. All those inputs were automatically put in to the screen right here, or you could pull these levers out or push them in to input them manually. This tells you what you need to do to the gyro in the torpedoes, and these are also automatically set by the TDC. It reduces the amount of time needed to launch a torpedo from about 20 minutes to 5 to 7. So you can get torpedoes in the water very, very quickly. We have the ship's 2 periscopes. You have the search periscope and the attack periscope. When you're just looking for a ship to attack, you would use the search periscope, which has a pretty large, pretty fancy objective. It's about the size of your fist. When you're actually launching torpedoes, you're going to switch to your attack periscope, which has a much, much smaller objective. It's about 2 fingers, and all it has is a simple gridded objective and an 8mm film camera, because all kills have to be recorded on film. As I said earlier, the Pampanito's record was 6-4. It's actually 7-3, depending on who you talk to. There was one ship that she hit, but it wasn't actually captured on film, so they don't know whether it was a confirmed kill. This is the torpedo firing control. When you get a green light down below, that you know that the gyro's been set, the tube is pressurized, and it's ready to fire. So what you do is you turn the knob on the tubes you wanted to select, and you'd go over here to this big brass button, and you would press the button, launching the torpedoes out of the ship.
It kind of looks like it demands like a dramatic action.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's no sort of like one finger gentle push. You have to